Hello and welcome to the Punters Lounge podcast, focusing on Royal Ascot. We're going to look at the first 2 days on the card, and the first day is absolutely exceptional. Pleased to say that I'm joined by the Brigadier, as he is known on the Punters Lounge forum, Stephen Simmons. How are you, Steve?
I'm very well. How are you, Darren?
Yeah, good, thank you. Really looking forward to what should be a cracking week's racing.
Yes.
And let's start with day one. We've got 3 Group 1s to look forward to. I think it's probably the best day of the whole week, isn't it?
Yes.
With those 3 Group 1s. And we're starting off with a cracker. We got the Queen Anne Stakes, which of course is over the straight mile. Seen plenty of good horses win this race over the years. And the betting seems to suggest that we've got just the two of them, Modern Games and Inspiral. Of course, Modern Games came out and was very impressive in the Lockinge, whereas Inspiral is going to have her first run of the season. So is it one of those two, or are you going to look elsewhere?
I think it is one of those two. Personally, I'm with Modern Games. Globetrotter, won 5 grade Group 1s around the world, including 2 Breeders' Cups. He impressed me in the Lockinge last time out at Newbury, and I just think he's going to be a little bit strip fitter than Inspiral, even though Inspiral, I do know, has been working well at Newmarket and has won first time out the last 2 years. We saw what she did in the Coronation last year. Very impressive. That was on the round course, though, and this is the straight mile, so just might be a factor there. But on official ratings, the official handicap has got £1 between them in favour of Modern Games. So, but it's not a straight match, Darren, is it? I mean, Native Trail, 3-time Group 1 winner, flopped last time, arguably at Newmarket when it was second to Savvik. He's only £1 behind the top 2 Modern Games in Inspiral. Buick's ridden him on all 9 occasions, and I noticed this morning that he's actually on Modern Games, so that's probably a small negative for Native Trail, but he won't be far behind them. And if you're looking for a steal each way, if 8 declare, I'm not sure whether they will, that would be the one. But my tip would be Modern Games. I just think he might be a little bit more street hardened as well than Inspiral.
Yeah, Modern Games currently priced up at 13-8 with Bet365 at the time of recording. I mean, they're the 3 you mentioned, are the only 3 in single figures at the moment. Could you give anything else a squeak at all at a bigger price?
Not really, to be honest. I hate to be a bit negative like that. I'd rather be horses there at the moment. Lockinge, I can't see any reason really why any of them should turn the tables. That's probably going to make the pace. That's how the way he likes to run. But he was put in his place by Modern Games at Newbury, between the front 2 with Native Trail, just maybe a length behind the pair. So we'll find some more juicier prices later on, no doubt.
Yeah, obviously we've got some cracking handicaps to look forward to throughout the week. Right, so let's move on to the second race on day 1. It's the Coventry Stakes. The first time I'm going to see the 2-year-olds of the week, and again, this is shaping up to be a fantastic race because the speed figure boys, as we say, are getting very excited about the top 2 in the market here. River Tiber for Aidan O'Brien, of course, and Asanda, who was really, really impressive, ridiculously fast time in doing so.
Yeah, I think most people actually missed that Asadna when it was on a Sunday. I think one firm gave out 14-1 for the Coventry afterwards, and it was still 12-1 was still available the following day until Hugh Taylor of At the Races gave the horse out as a selection, and then it just collapsed completely to the right price, which is around, it's drifted out a bit to 4-1 this morning. There's good money around for the O'Brien horse, River Tiber. But no, I mean, visually, Asadna was very impressive. And as you said, Darren, the time was exceptional. The horse it beat that day, 12 lengths back in second, that went on to run in the Woodcote at Epsom, was beaten 10 lengths. So I don't know whether that's a positive or a negative, to be honest.
I will just say, I mean, he was obviously a very big price in the Woodcote, and he didn't have the best of draws. So maybe that wasn't his true performance. But I mean, obviously, it is a fair point that the one horse to have come out the race so far hasn't franked form. But then, having said that, of course, he was 12 lengths behind.
Well, exactly. So you on literal form, you could put a Sedna in the Woodcote, and he's won the Woodcote by 2 lengths. So maybe it wasn't, such a bad effort. But no, he's sure to run well. And George Bowie, terrific up and coming trainer. I know we say up and coming. He's been around probably 5-6 years now, but no, he looks an exceptional horse, and he's got to go well.
So is it one of those two that you're putting up here?
Well, no. I mean, River Tiber, he's all blued up this morning. We're recording this on Friday morning. I did hear a whisper that he might actually go for the Norfolk. So just bear that in mind. Despite the money this morning, he did work well in a gallop yesterday. 4 of the Royal Ascot horses worked together, and River Tiber kicked them out into touch. But there was talk afterwards that it might be the Norfolk. So we'll see. But no, I have got respect for the pair of them, but I do like an outsider. Army Ethos is the one I like. Trained by Archie Watson. It's had 1 run, great big horse in a 6-runner Air Maiden. Absolutely bolted up, made all under Holly Doyle. Looked a good prospect. Obviously, this is a mile away from that victory. But I do know the horse has done a very good piece of work recently, that these stable connections were saying it was similar to what Brad Sell did last year before he came on and won this very race. So he's been nibbled at in the market. He was 25-1 before the 6-day decks. He's now 16, even a bit shorter in places. I think he's a bit of value. Obviously, the form book's not going to tell you that he should be winning this, Darren. But sometimes in a race like this, with these 2-year-old races, you just go visually how they've won. And he did look a good animal that day. So each way for me, Army Ethos 16-1.
Just going to mention one other horse. Wesley Ward obviously always has a strong string that he brings over from America, especially with the 2-year-olds. And he's got Fandom in this race, who won at Keeneland on debut back in April over 5.5 furlongs.
Yeah, you've got to respect anything Wesley brings over. I did notice he's got a couple of other entries throughout the meeting for Fandom. So I don't know the plans of his, and it's very hard to get a handle, isn't it, on some of these American horses? And normally they go off a million miles. He could be 2-3 lengths clear after a furlong. But he wouldn't be for me, certainly not knowing where he's going to run as well. I can pass on a word for one, actually, called Devious of Donegal O'Brien's, that won at Nace on his debut, written by Gavin Ryan at a big price. And I'm told that they like this an awful lot. So that might be one that just might shorten up. He's got a couple of other entries, but I'm told this is his race. That's Devious for Donegal O'Brien.
Okay, well, we'll keep a lookout for that one. Let's move on to the second Group 1 of the week. It's the King Stand Stakes, and it's probably the race I'm looking forward to most, being the Australian expert on the forum. And we've got Kunagata here, who currently isn't favourite. It's Highfield Princess currently favourite. I just want to point out that when Nature Strip won this race last year, there was a lot of rubbish spoken about him, that he wouldn't want quick ground. And this is mainly because on the Racing Post website, it comes up as good, because in Australia, they don't have firm the way they do their going descriptions. But Nature Strippers had one on a good 3, which would be good to firm, possibly firm in places, the equivalent of over here. And Kunagata has done exactly the same. So if you hear anyone say, "Oh, I'm not sure whether she wants quick ground or not," it's absolute rubbish. Australia's a very hot country. They race on quick ground all the time over there. And Nature Strip had done similar, and obviously Nature Strip was really impressive when winning this race last year. Now Kunagata, I wouldn't say she's as good as Nature Strip at this moment, and I was really, really confident about Nature Strip coming into this race last year. But she did beat Nature Strip on her last start that she had in Australia, when she won the Lightning Stakes at Flemington, which is over 5 furlongs, and Nature Strip was back in 6 on that occasion. Now, Nature Strip hasn't quite been the same horse since he came over to Royal Ascot last year. So I wouldn't take that at pure face value, that obviously the Nature Strip we saw last year was really impressive. But the form is pretty strong, because she beat a horse called I Wish I Win, and that horse came out and won the TJ Smith Stakes at Randwick, which is basically their big Group 1 sprint that they have up in Sydney. in the spring. Sorry, in the autumn. So the form is pretty strong. James McDonald takes the ride, and he of course rode Nature Strip last year. I think he's one of the best riders in the world. He's absolutely superb. I mean, he gave Nature Strip the perfect ride last year, but obviously he was much superior. And Kira Maher and David Eustace, they have so many horses out in Australia. I mean, if you follow me on the forum, you'll see that I also focus on Australian jumps horses, which obviously isn't quite as big in Australia as the flat, but they love dominating the jumps as well. I mean, they've got a couple of runners in the maiden hurdle at Warrnambool on Sunday morning. So they really do specialise in both areas. And I think it's fascinating that they brought her over. I personally think she's the one to beat. I don't know what you think, Steve. Do you
just
agree?
Before we move on to the British contingent, Dan, wasn't there a talk about a moderate gallop or something that Cornegata did before coming over? Would that worry you, or is that?
No, that wouldn't worry me. I watched the gallop at Flemington, and Kira Maher did come out afterwards and say, I was a little bit concerned. I must admit, so was I, because visually she wasn't very impressive. She didn't really seem to pick up. However, what they did, they studied what the ground was, and they studied what the time was, and the time was actually quicker than what Nature Strip recorded in a similar gallop.
Okay, that's interesting.
So obviously that gave them the confidence to bring her over. If they thought that she wasn't in peak form, they wouldn't have risked bringing her over. And she went to Ascot on Wednesday, and she galloped really, really well. She looked good. James McDonald got off and was super confident. So I wouldn't personally be worried anymore about that gallop she did at Flemington.
Okay. Well, I think the best of our runners over here has got to be Highfield Princess. I mean, she triple Group 1 winner last year, cracking first run at York, and with a £5 penalty, she was easy to back. I thought that was a hell of a run. She nearly pulled it off, nearly won that day. And I mean, on official ratings with the British horses, I don't have any official ratings for the Australian horses. She's £6 ahead of the rest, and that brings in Marshman, and then it's another £2 further on to the other horses. So I think she's clearly the best of ours, but like you, I am worried of Cornegata. And what about Cannonball? Would you give Cannonball a chance, or?
I must admit, I think he's quite short in the betting for what he's achieved. I mean, I don't think he's achieved anywhere near as what Cornegata's achieved. And he's currently a single figure price. I mean, there has been a bit of support for him, but I mean, I was having a close look at his form last night, and he won a Group 3 at Rose Hill back in March, but that was a handicap, and he then went into the Galaxy, which is a Group 1, but it's also a handicap, and he finished third. He was only carrying 7 stone 12. He obviously gets a 3-year-old allowance plus his handicap rating as well. So, I mean, to me, I'd wanted to have seen him win that race from such a low weight for him to have a chance here. The two horses that finished in front of him haven't really franked the form since either. I mean, Uncommon James, who was second, came into that race. He went off favourite, and he came into that race in really good form, but he hasn't really backed it up since. He hasn't really gone on, and the winner the same. So, I mean, look, the Snowdon team, they wouldn't travel unless they thought he had a good chance. But I just think on bare form, I'd be surprised if he beat Cornegata. If she wins a race, I would have a fair way in front of him myself. So.
There's a couple of others I wanted to mention, Dan, before we move on. Dramatise. I think quite a few people want to be against her for the run at Haydock, because she had that Golden Highway that obviously Kirkland True Right again got the watering wrong, and there's a fast strip down this side. Not for the first time. I'm told he's hanging up his watering can soon, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, which would be a dreadful shame. But no, dramatised. People will want to be against her for that run, but I don't know. She's fast and comes into it with a chance, but I do prefer Highfield Princess. I can't have Mannequin. I think that's the wrong price. This is a horse that's yet to run beyond Group 3. Got £8 to find with Highfield Princess. I think the Frankie factor has pulled this one in. I mean, top price 8-1. With me, that would be a double figure price. I don't see that one at all, although I would love John Ryan to have a big race Group 1 winner like this. Terrific character. And just one outsider before we move on, Darren. Kevin Blake has been talking up Muniesta here. Obviously, he's the race planner for Joseph O'Brien. A couple of podcasts I've listened to, he mentioned this. It's had one run for Joseph O'Brien. It was actually fourth in this race last year to Nature Strip. I mean, obviously, nothing was going to beat Nature Strip, beaten 5 1/4 lengths. But at 40-1, there's worse big price horses than that running this week. If you wanted a real big price
just
one.
say about Kunagata as well. I mean, I often like to see the Australian horses have proven themselves over 6 furlongs as well for this race, like Nature Strip had. It's quite a stiff finish at Ascot, and Kunagata has won over 6 furlongs as well. So I wouldn't have any issues about the distance on the stiff track like Ascot, and hopefully it'll come up pretty quick ground. Although, I mean, she has one. If it does rain, there is.
Exactly.
Then she handles a little bit of digging the ground as well. So, like I say, I wouldn't be as confident as I was about Nature Strip last year, because I was really, really confident that he was going to win. But I think she's very good. And as you say, for me, the only danger is Highfield Princess. They do look the 2 standout horses in the race. Just quickly mention Twilight Cause, because he was second in this race last year. I know he's not done very much since, but Henry Candy seems pretty positive about that one's chance. So around about 20-1, he could have place games.
He wouldn't want any rain, would he? For sure.
No, he wouldn't.
Horse, he really is. Yeah. Okay.
Right, let's move on to the final Group 1 on day 1 at 4:20. It's the St James's Palace Stakes, and of course, this is a fascinating race because it brings all the Guineas winners together. We've got Chaldine, obviously gave Frankie Dettori his final 2,000 guineas, or probably his final 2,000 guineas winner. And we've also got Paddington, who won the Irish 2,000 guineas as well. Do you think it's going to be one of those two supplementing their Guineas success?
I think it is, Darren. I don't like tipping favourites, but I'm afraid it's going to be hard to split them. There is a line there between their Guineas form. High Royal of Kevin Ryan ran in both the English and the Irish Guineas, and obviously all at level weights, and Paddington beat High Royal a length further than Chaldine did. So maybe it's going to be Paddington. I would just favour Paddington, but there won't be much between them. Officially, the handicap has got Chaldine a £3 better horse than Paddington, but it's going to be a tough one. It wouldn't shock me if either of them won, really. So obviously it'd be great for Frankie to have a winner or two at his last Royal Ascot fixture. So one horse I can't have, and I'd say it's my lay of the meeting, is the third in. This Cicero's Gift, £27 officially behind Chaldine. It's a 7-2 chance. Not for me. It's won a Goodwood listed race easily by 4 lengths, and I know Charlie Hills has bigged it up a couple of times in interviews. I've heard him talking, but that surely can't be a 7-2 chance. So, but
I mean, he obviously was very impressive.
He was, but I mean that was listed company, and we're talking Group 1 company, and
not just any Group 1s, of course. We're talking about classic form.
Yes, exactly. I would have thought if he was 8-10-1, people could be getting excited, but 7-2 now, not for me. No, sorry. Isaac Shelby, who was an unlucky second in the French 2000s, he's in there at double the price. That just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm happy to be against.
He won the Greenham when Chaldine, of course, blew his chance at the start.
That's right. Yes, exactly. Strange one, that, wasn't it? I mean, Chaldine actually finished ahead of him, didn't he, without the jockey on? So,
So,
if there is an outsider there, I think Royal Scotsman can run well. I mean, officially rated only £1 behind Chaldine, and amazingly £2 better than Paddington, despite his blowout. Whether it might have been sore shins, which obviously won't augur well if he's coming back racing on fast ground again, but he's better than that run over in Ireland. And he ties in with Chaldine on 2-year-old form and on Guineas form. There shouldn't be much between them. So he's my best outsider. If we get 8 runners or more, Royal Scotsman at a double figure price.
Well, let's have a very quick spin through the remaining 3 races on the card, starting off with the Ascot Stakes. We've got Bring on the Night. Willie Mullins, of course, dominated the Jumps Festivals, and he's looking to take another Ascot Stakes success. Ryan Moore in the saddle.
Yeah, well, not only this race, Darren, we're going to get on obviously to the last race, the Copper Horse Stakes, two competitive handicaps. You would normally think, and at the moment, Bring on the Night's a 2-1 chance, and Vauban we'll get to later about a 7-4 chance. I mean, you think this guy would let the flat trainers get on with it and have a winner or two, but I mean, this horse ran second in this race last year to Coltrane. Coltrane is now rated £19 higher, so Bring on the Night is only £3 higher than that second last year. And I know we haven't seen him since, but Willie Mullins is a genius at getting horses fit and ready. And this would have been in his mind for a long, long time. In a race he does very, very well in. I think he's won it 4 times in the last.
Yeah, I mean, Jumps Trainer's got a fantastic record in this race, full stop, haven't they?
Yeah, but then there's no value, is it? 2-1. It's going to be a 20-runner race. But
of course, we're talking ahead of the draw, and the draw's very crucial in this race as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, even over 2.5. If you're drawn out wide, you have to drop in and give up ground, and it can be a tactical race, So, but I mean, of the others, Charlie Burns has got an interesting runner here in Run for Oscar that won the Cesarewitz last year, but he's got to shoulder 9 stone 13 with top weight. Nikki Henderson runs a horse with no name. I think she can run well. She's a mare. She was 5th in the Cesarewitz last year to Run for Oscar, and I think she's £11 better off for 8 lengths. So I thought she was a little bit disappointing that day, but she did win a big mares race at Cheltenham in April at their April meeting. So I wouldn't be shocked if she ran well. That might be the each way value, but whatever you're backing each way in this race, save your stake on the favourite, because it just could be too good for these. We know it stays, and it could be well handicapped, as you say. Darren Ryamore's been booked.
Yeah.
So
Right, we'll move on to the Wolferton. I mean, this looks ultra competitive at this stage.
Yes.
Anything catch your eye?
Well, the only thing that caught my eye, I mean, Saga's in there at the top of the market. That's going to run in the Hunt Cup, surely. There's a couple there with Penalties, Buckaroo and King of Conquest. I think Francesco Clementi's probably the one. Next second at Goodwood last time out when it ran off the bend. It probably should have won that day. It's the highest rated in the race. John Gosden, Thady Gosden. Yeah, that would be the selection. But, there's going to be plenty of runners, and they might be worth looking when we get the final decks at a little bit more value, I think, each way.
And you already mentioned the final race, the Copper Horse Handicap, and you mentioned Vauban, who, of course, has been really good over hurdles, having his first flat start for 701 days. Short in the betting, but can he be opposed?
I don't think so. What you've got to remember is this is a 160 rated hurdler racing off of 101 on the flat. Now, I've always been told to take off £40 off of the national hunt rating to get to an equivalent flat rating. So let's take £40 off of the 160. That gives him 120. He's racing off of 101. Simple maths, he's £19 well in. It doesn't always work that way, but this is a top-class hurdler, second to State Man at the Punchestown Festival, 4th in our champion hurdle. It's been mapped out for this. Ryan Moore's booked. That's a simple game, isn't it? It wins.
Right, that wraps up day one. Let's just get your best bet on the card on day one, Steve.
I think the value bet each way would be Army Ethos in the Coventry. And my best bet would be Modern Games in the opener. And you, Darren?
Well, I mean, admittedly, I haven't had a very good look at the rest of the card, but yeah, I mean, Cornegata, I think she looks at a really solid bet. I personally think she'd have favour. I know Paul Keeley in the Racing Post reckons I feel Princess should be about 6-4 shot, but
yes,
I think that's balmy. I think that's a daft thing to say.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, because as we know, the Australian sprinters are so good, and as Nature Strip proved last year, are a fair bit better. Now, I feel Princess is probably better than any of those horses who ran in the race last year.
Yeah.
But even so, to say that she should be a 6-4 shot against Kunagata is just plain silly. So yeah, she is the one that I'm hoping will win on day one of Royal Ascot.